Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is April 30th, 2026. I am James Jones. I'm joined today by Mr. John Lindeman.
Great to be here, James.
The returning Mr. Greg Leahy.
No, hoy, hoy, everyone.
And the extremely returning Mr. Guillaume Bayet.
Extremely jet-lagged Guillaume Bayet, still.
Oh yeah,
somehow.
that comes with the territory. Yeah, No. Don't worry, it gets better. Like 2 or 3 months from now, you'll be mostly fine. It'll be great.
I'm just saying, if I'm not responsive at some point, you know what happened. I just passed out.
Oh, I was going to say you went on a crime spree, but okay, we'll go with that. This is episode 973, which John so helpfully reminded me of before recording, so I didn't have to look it up. And we're going to get right into new business. And normally we'd have the returning person lead new business, but aesthetically speaking, we have 2 of those. I suspect Guillaume's going to have a lot of stuff to talk about, so I'm going to let Greg and I kick it off because we both have been playing Pragmata. And I have finished that game. Greg is very close to there. So we can be pretty conclusive in our impressions here. So Greg, I'll let you kick it off and then I'll jump in.
Sure, yeah. So you've got it pretty much at release. And, in this case, obviously some of the reasons, there were a lot of very positive reviews, of course, including the one, on AWR. But, some of the reason I was kind of confident in it was the experience of playing Resident Evil Requiem. There obviously there's a certain amount of overlap there. So on the technical level and whatnot. So it kind of felt like, yeah, it should work for me. And really, I guess the biggest thing, because it's much less, sort of horror driven. It's got some kind of horrific elements in it. Some quite creepy like enemy designs, and there's that one particular camouflage enemy that ends up like snagging you with like the crazy like it's a weird thing to say, but it's almost like a bipedal spider in terms of it's a spider that's been mounted to 2 legs as well. But
it also loves its jump scares, where you'll turn a corner and something will just go ha and jump out and get you.
Yeah, so there's overlap, with some Resident Evil kind of scares and some unpleasant designs and freaky things and whatnot. But generally speaking, it's like, okay, this is not going to have the first person kind of emphasis of the Graces sections in Resident Evil and just the kind of general nature of it. This is going to be much more of a portable play game for me, more like the back end, like the Leon stuff in Resident Evil Requiem. So that's generally how I've played it. Very sparingly. I actually played it on TV, but, it's been mostly fine. I think, technically, I guess it's not quite apples to apples with, my experience with Resident Evil, because again, a lot of that was on TV, but I feel like it's probably a little bit wonkier than Resident Evil was, in terms of, like, obviously, in both cases, I think you're pretty much talking about unlocked frame rate, right? Basically, it kind of can go to, I'm assuming, like 60, but often it does not stay there on Switch 2 because, there's a lot going on, but it just feels like, that might be even more so the case than was, sort of demonstrated with Resident Evil Requiem, because especially later in the game where environments can be quite expansive and they can be quite complex. Like you for like story reasons, there's just like a bunch of crazy crap like protruding out of things and all this kind of stuff. Like, there are certain moments where the uncapped frame rate just like goes way the hell down for a moment, or for a little stretch anyway. But overall it was more than kind of playable. I'm quite pleased with it, really, and obviously there's a certain amount. I mean, it can be quite frantic, and it's very much an action game in a lot of ways. But there is a deliberate quality to it because of the whole hacking, element to the game and all that. It's not just kind of like a Twitch shooter. For me, it just kind of worked out really well as something to play portably. Obviously, it would be nice to kind of soak in the atmosphere and the music and all that a bit more, but it's just not really that practical to get through it in a reasonable amount of time for me. So it's been a really cool experience, and you have to roll in credits pretty much, in line with what, the reviews kind of told me to expect. There is a substantial amount of kind of post-game type stuff that I'm kind of getting towards the end of now, but I'll certainly be tempted to see a bit more of it at the very least. Maybe not absolutely everything before I kind of at least put it down for a bit, but I'm getting close.
I played it entirely in docked on a 4K TV. It looks gorgeous. I had a couple moments where I could feel the frame rate kind of went, eh. The first big open area that you get to, because from the very beginning, the game, it feels very tight and confined, because the premise is you are the main character is a member of a crew that was sent to research or look into why a moon base has stopped responding. So there's a base on the moon that's mining a mineral, and they're using that mineral to produce essentially a type of filament for 3D printing that can print basically anything. And so for whatever reason, that base has stopped responding to hails from Earth. So the company that runs...
Which is the sci-fi trope, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also pretty much the plot of the game I'll be talking about this week.
Nice. So they send a crew to go look at it. They assume it's an engineering problem, like a transmitter broke or some shit. And they get there and find there are no people. The robots that are run by the facility's AI to do chores that have been slowly taking over people's responsibilities on the ship are still around, but the people aren't. And so that's sort of the kicking off point, at which point Hugh, our main character, is almost immediately separated from his crew. And this is all in the demo, so I'm not going to consider it a spoiler. And is now forced to kind of navigate through it with the help of a robot that is not of the AI. This is the humanoid Diana robot that you've seen in all the trailers and stuff. The absolutely adorable, roughly 6-year-old girl who hangs around on his back. But early on, the game is very tight corridors, like you'd expect from a colony on the moon. And then it very suddenly opens up. And that was some places where I saw some stuttering. But generally speaking, at least docked, it was pretty good. I'm sure there were some spots I just missed because the game's not, as Greg alluded to, it doesn't really require a lot of Twitch reaction time most of the time. Because I guess I'll touch on the combat, because that's where you'd probably most likely notice it. Most of the game is just Hugh and Diana walking around. The combat is there, but it's not omnipresent. It pops up randomly in small doses. Like you'll be walking through a hallway and one of the robots will just kind of jump out and attack you. And then there will be essentially what are just kill rooms. You go into a room, you're met with some number of enemies, and the fighting happens. And that's the room, and then the door opens on the other side, and you walk out like it's a Zelda kill room, basically. But a lot of the time, it's just the two of you wandering around the hallway, maybe talking about things you're seeing. And in that case, some hitching or some frame rate stuff, you probably wouldn't notice it. But in combat, there's a weird sense of you're doing 3 things at one time. It's a third-person shooter, so Hugh is changing weapons and firing, and how the buttons are configured feels a little bit weird. You switch buttons with your right hand, but you shoot with your left. So there's a little bit of like rubbing your head, patting your stomach. Your left hand is engaged in the act of movement, because that's where the stick is, and shooting, and also it's playing this mini game at the bottom, which is the second thing you're doing, which is Diana. She's a type of robot called a Pragmata. She doesn't run from the AI. She's completely self-contained. Has the ability to hack these robots to make them vulnerable. So you're constantly playing this little hacking mini game that she brings up anytime you target an enemy. So you're doing that and moving with the right thumb while shooting with your left fingers, and then at the same time, because the mini game is played on the bottom, it's the face buttons on the right hand side of the controller. Your weapon selecting is the D-pad on the left hand side, and your camera is the left stick. So you're kind of doing a bunch of unrelated things at the same time. And also there's active boosting and active dodging. So you're also like trying to dodge enemy attacks because there's advantages for doing that. So you're letting them get close and then dodging really fast out of the way. So your brain's kind of busy, and I feel like there's probably times where the frame rate dipped and I just didn't notice because I'm doing 17,000 other things in the moment. This could have been really bad. Like, this could have been a really complicated thing where you're trying to do too many things at one time. But I found that playing as Hugh and Diana, I got it pretty fast. Like, that making the hacking and doing the hacking in the flow of fighting and dodging and moving around and repositioning Hugh and like developing the tactics for most of these enemies don't move real fast. They're pretty zombie-like. Some of them do, or some of them will wind up and do a really fast move and then kind of go back to scuttling around. Understanding about positioning rather than trying to be moving all the time, like positioning, doing something, and then reassessing if you need to move again. I felt like it actually all came together really well, and it made the combat feel good, even though it's a lot. There's a lot of things going on, which is an interesting balance they managed to strike. We could talk a bit. I don't know. Do you want to dig into the experience of playing it here beyond? Like, I'm trying to figure out what's good to talk about and what's like, let people discover that for themselves.
Yeah, because it's still quite soon after it came out, obviously, so you don't want to go too far. I mean, with respect to the combat, in particular, outside of the kind of the technical aspects, I get it's a little bit of a weird thing to say. But in one sense, I guess you could say I got on well with it because I think when we talked about the demo, it's a similar thing. Just like I kind of like the fact that it's more deliberate. It's a bit like, kind of probably older, earlier third-person shooters that I could probably cope with a little bit better. So, I kind of got on with it okay. But on the other hand, I don't want to give the impression that meant I was like very proficient with it. You know what I mean? Like I was pretty rubbish at it a lot of the time, but definitely just like sometimes you're better off admitting defeat and like, no, I'm not going to be able to finish like this, kind of hack route, because like the way the hack grid can kind of play out, some enemies have got like bigger, more complex kind of grids than others. And
they have traps on the grid that'll block you.
Yeah, you've got traps, and then you've got like nodes that you can like are upgrades and or pickups, and they're beneficial. They can have certain types of effects, or just enhance the amount of damage you're going to do. And all this sort of stuff going on. Sometimes you can say, okay, well, I want to hit that. Well, you quickly kind of look at the grid and say, okay, let's hit that one, and then get to the goal of the kind of the end point of the hacking grid. But, sometimes there's just too much shit going on, and what I should be doing is saying, right, let's just break away. Like you said, you've got this kind of dodging thing, because you're in this sort of, astronaut-y kind of, rig. So you've got this kind of, jet jump, you can kind of just boost to the side, or, can go help extend jumps. But, when you're just sort of on the ground shooting at stuff, it's good for essentially like a big sidestep. What it should be doing is just say, like, let's sidestep, regroup, lock back in on the enemy and come back to it. But just a lot of the time I was too slow to kind of recognise and kind of admit defeat on that, and you just end up sort of standing there and doing it, and then you get hit and stuff like that. So like I said, it's not like I took to it like a duck to water, but at the same time, it's like I never had a problem with it either. It's just like I liked it. I just wasn't that good at it, which is just hardly the only example of such things in for me. So like I feel like I probably liked it most, and like you said, I think this is a lot of the game where it's not like a lot of it at once, right? It's not like densely packed. When the way it's usually kind of spaced out, with the flow of, you know, the story stuff or some other aspects that might focus more on platforming or a little bit of like puzzle solving and exploration, you know, finding pickups and, you know, upgrades and things. A lot of the time, that kind of rhythm that it established, it sat quite well with me. I guess when you get a lot of it over, you know, kind of in a tight period, I feel like maybe it gets a little bit fatiguing because there is a lot going on. And sometimes it's too much for me, probably, you know, to kind of keep coping with again and again and again, but never to like a really significant degree. I guess maybe some of these stuff more so in the post game, especially some of the stuff I kind of left to the post game. There are like these rooms that they say are like dangerous rooms, you know, are like that are like going to be combat like sections. So I kind of left them until after I'd rolled the credits. And so you're mopping some of these things up now. I'm getting more of the combat in sort of bigger doses in a way, but also with the many, many upgrades that there are. God, there are a lot of upgrades, and there are a lot of granularity to it and different types of like skill points and currencies and things involved. You know, I'm a lot more capable as a character at this point, you know. So, like I said, overall, I feel like it's, you know, pretty satisfying. And you know, I mean, I guess maybe this is a bit of a different experience if you play a lot more kind of third-person shooters than I do. But I would assume, you know, it freshens it up a bit, you know, for people who have played these more.
Yeah, I found that. I was doing the red door rooms that Greg referenced. I was doing those pretty much as soon as I could get into them because they require a key and you may not have a key because there's no guarantee they gave you a key around the door. Like they may expect you to come back with one. Sometimes you can buy them with one of the currencies. Sometimes you find them in other places. And so I had the key and if I had a key, I would go in and I would deal with the room. I think there's only one room where I had to go like, nah, I can't do this room. This room is beyond me right now. But that meant oftentimes I was going in without a bunch of the upgrades that, Greg, you would have when you'd cleared that room. And those rooms were an absolute fucking slog because one of the upgrades do a lot of things, but among them is more health, better defense, and then you get these essentially, to put it in like a Dark Souls context, it's like the Estus Flask. It's a thing you possess that allows you to recharge a portion of your health. You have to hold down the button to use it, and then it pops. And you can get upgrades to make them pop faster. And then anytime you go back to the cradle, which is Q and Diana's safe space, it refills. And so I would go into these. Usually so going to the cradle, there's a little like emergency escape ladder. There's a bunch of those spread throughout the game. Usually there's one of those right next to any of the red rooms or very close to one of the red rooms. Because that's, if you die, that's where you're going to pick back up from. You basically get a full health there. You can replace your weapons in the cradle. So like weapons you've spent, you can just get new ones. To reset your loadout. Because your loadout is oftentimes based on what you found lying around. But in the cradle, you can unlock the ability to effectively 3D print these weapons. So you can just say, like, I'm going into battle. This is the gear I want to have before I go in.
This is what I want to start with, yeah, because that's the thing. Right. It's like your primary weapon, right, that's going to reload however many times, right? But the other weapons is like you can, take some with you when you set out from home base, but after that, it's a case of what can you find, like, to keep, they've got a certain amount of ammo in them. Once you exhaust them, they're
and not
gone.
A lot.
You've got to pick up more. And again, at a certain point, you get the ability to carry multiple guns of certain types, and they have different types of guns. Ones that are more kind of for outright damage dealing, ones that are for defense, like deploying a holographic decoy, a bit like Total Recall.
That got used a lot in the red rooms.
Yeah, no, exactly. So just again, that's the kind of thing that could buy you time to do some of these more elaborate hacks that I'm talking about. Sometimes that's what you need to do. And then you've got others that are kind of more like they can debilitate the enemies, like the one that it's got a sort of splash damage kind of radius that makes them stumble, and that then they're easier to hack. So it's all like pretty well kind of constructed to kind of make you want to like swap among the different weapon types to buy you time, and kind of do a bit of crowd control sometimes before necessarily you do the hack, you expose the weak spot, and then you can do the really big damage.
And likewise, part of your loadout is what bonuses you want to bring with you for hacking. So there are ones that basically stun an enemy. There are ones that will confuse them and make them attack other people. There's ones that make them more vulnerable to damage. And then there is the one that I brought unless I was fighting a boss every time, which causes it to chain attack to other enemies who are nearby. So the hack will affect multiple enemies.
Essentially, it lets you hack multiple things at once, which is definitely pretty damn useful, isn't it, in a lot. So when they want to spawn a bunch of enemies at once, because that's the thing, that's where it can get more fatiguing if you don't have the multi-hack thing to hand, is just okay, well, this one and then that one and then that one, before you can even actually hurt them, really. Right. You could do very minor amounts of damage to enemies before they've been hacked, but generally speaking, you really need to open them up before you can do anything of consequence.
That one plus the electric stun plus confuse, like if you could chain all those together into one hack, it was a lot, and it basically let you reset one of those red rooms that are a mess. Because what I found in those situations where I'm fighting a lot of enemies, what I usually ended up doing was Hugh would just kind of walk around the edge of the room and draw the enemies to that side, and then I would use the boost, because you can upgrade how many boosts you can fire in consecutive, and how fast it recharges. I would essentially boost to the opposite side of the room and just try to like mob manage until they got close enough that I had to do it again. Because a lot of times that's what it came down to, but some of the enemies are smarter than others. Some of the enemies move at different speeds. The game very deliberately creates situations where you're facing enemies where that becomes difficult to do because they're moving at different speeds, so you can't say, okay, they're all pretty close to me, I can boost to the other side of the room and not be near anyone. Because the really slow enemies are still back there, and they're probably the ones who hit harder. So there's this weird, like, dichotomy of trying to mob manage when they're giving you lots of different mixes of enemies, that makes some of that stuff really more challenging. I think the boss encounters are also very, very good. I think there's one that I didn't like. I think it's the third boss you run into. I could say that because the game is very linear. It quite literally is linear. You are going around the station on a train. And so,
and I guess because of the artificial nature of the environment, right, with the being a moon base and all that, is kind of, it lends itself to the artifice of a video game pretty nicely, and so you're literally like unlocking levels 1 through 5 in the cradle or whatever, so but it kind of hangs together thematically fine, and they did get more kind of variety out of the moon base environment than you might necessarily expect. Obviously, you already kind of alluded to the narrative crux behind that is just the fact that they've, kind of found this miracle material basically there from which they can make just about anything.
Speaking of your sci-fi tropes, the miracle material that can make anything.
Yes, exactly. So, but what you end up getting actually is quite a variety of environments, and it was actually quite deep into the game where it was more like, okay, here's something which feels like almost what you might have been expecting more up front of like dealing with a moon environment, right? Where it's like, gravity is lower and your jumps go further and it could go really far and all this kind of thing. So, it's, I feel like they did, on the one hand, it feels, kind of natural enough, all the stuff that you do, tied to this, not exactly groundbreaking kind of premise that's at work here, but they get the proper mileage out of it and a sufficient variety out of it to kind of make it work for the length of the game.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because one of the narratives you pick up from the writings that are scattered around the base is the people who are there are bored and they're homesick. And so they're using this miracle material a lot of times just to alleviate their homesickness. And so you get to kind of see that. And the notes that you read as you're going through combine with the environment that you're experiencing. And you can kind of piece together, this person did that based on this note I've read. Which is interesting. If you care about that kind of like care being put into, for lack of a better word, lore, I really appreciate that. Like they made that effort. Of course, not everything is working perfectly. Hence the reason why your crew was sent there. Without getting into why things aren't working perfectly, they're working very not perfectly. Things are, and it is interesting. Like you talk about how it's very late in the game when you get the moon base experience. It's also very late in the game where you actually get to see how wrong things are getting. Like as you get deeper in, you get a bigger view of like what's happening, why it's happening, the state of things. But also there's the elephant in the room we haven't talked about. Part of what's made this game so popular, so appealing, has been part of the meme of this game. It tells a very good, if a little tropey story that deals with a lot of sci-fi tropes in it. But the biggest one, at least in my opinion, the biggest sci-fi trope it's dealing with is what makes something alive. Because I've mentioned her, Diana, the Pragmata, this robot that is incredibly lifelike, and not just physically lifelike, but also behaves in a very lifelike and authentic way for a 6-year-old, becomes very quickly attached to Hugh, and you get to watch them develop it's a mix of a paternalistic relationship, but also there's just a certain amount of just like, they develop a kind of friendship that goes along with it. And the game really leans into that. Like they really, like I joked about it when we did the demo, like, oh, they're going to make her betray you and stab you in the back. They're going to absolutely twist the knife. I promise you they don't do that. But they really do like make sure that you like her a lot. Like the meme of if anything happens to her, I'll kill everyone and then myself. The game really leans into trying to create that emotional connection. And it does a pretty good job. She's extremely charming. Having, been around a bunch of kids, I've been around a bunch of girls who were that age because my family just kept having girls. There is a certain authenticity to that behavior of like when she gets a gift, you give her the excited shaking she's doing as she waits for it to finish printing. Like I have seen that exact motion before. I'm like, they like mocap the 6-year-old. I've watched them do that on Christmas. That's fucking wild. But she's also a hyper intelligent robot. So you have these like she and Hugh have these conversations that are kind of enlightening for the story. But very quickly make it clear that, you're dealing with an Asimov problem here of, is she a living thing, even though she's a robot? And there's like a piece of lore at some point you pick up where they said it's illegal to make lifelike robots on Earth, which is like, because a lot of the plot is basically
that's basically the same as Blade Runner, right? In terms of the replicants all work off world, and that's why if they escape and they come to Earth, somebody's going to retire them.
Yeah, and so that's the whole premise of like we've got to get off this fucked up moon base, and so there is that dynamic that's going in play there. They are just fun to they're just kind of fun to be around. They have fun interactions, especially when they're in the not the cradle. The cradle's the name of the base. What is the name of their little escape area. Cabin's the name of the robot in the escape area, but I can't remember the name of the actual escape area. The safe zone. That's where, as you collect these items, these are like these things that people made who were on the station to sort of remind themselves of home. They basically turn into toys for her to play with. There's a ton of interactions of like her coloring, or you get her a skateboard and she's rolling around and she absolutely sucks ass at it because it's a skateboard, and skateboards exist for 6 to 10-year-olds to fall and bust their head open. Or you get her squirt guns and she's running around pretending to shoot you. You could play hide and seek with her. Like, there's all kinds of weird, goofy interactions. There is a robot in the little safe zone, named Cabin. You collect coins to give him coins, and he lets you play bingo with them. He unlocks a lot of the functionality in the safe zone, and he's weird and goofy, and says all kinds of odd phrases when you buy things from him that feel like they are feels like things are malfunctioning when he speaks, when he says like, you have excellent ocular organs or something like that. When he's just trying to say like, you have good taste. And there's interactions between the two of them. So like, I'm out there trying to fix up my guns and I'm watching those two do some weird bullshit. And it's just, it is very good writing and very good acting by the people who voiced these two characters to make you feel a connection to them. And that's also becomes the driving pulse of the plot as well, as you're trying to figure out what's going on, and then B, once you do, figure out how to deal with it. They did a really nice job pacing it. You know, I did everything. And when I say I did everything, I mean I have done everything. There is nothing left for me to do in this game except there's some VR missions you can do that you can train with.
It's very kind of like shrines in like a Breath of the Wild, or there's the bits in Splatoon, the side order DLC, you know, again, it's very much like that kind of environment where it's like, this is where we could just spawn little challenges that are not in any kind of environmental context. It's just a place where you do a challenge, and they can focus on, I think a lot of them all, there are certain sections in them sort of core story, but it feels like the platforming element gets emphasized more in those kinds of what I've played of those, because I certainly have not played all of them to this point, because as you said, you've got quite a lot of mobility, and it's very upgradable as well. By the end of it, you know, you can traverse big, you know, sort of gaps, but you know, you do need to be able to kind of land it properly, because it's like this big discrete kind of boost, isn't it? So you can overshoot, or, you know, but then you can use the hover that you've got to kind of, you know, get it right and then hit the boost and then land where you want to land. Like it's quite skill involved, and it's quite unique as well, you know, distinct kind of aspects to it. So it does kind of feel like it's an area that's not put to the greatest use in the, you know, main body of the games. It kind of makes sense that they would have these areas where, again, if you want to, especially I would assume maybe if you feel like you could use some additional kind of upgrades, you know, you find a lot of these different, essentially, like I said, different kinds of skill points and stuff, just you walking the main path. But if you want more, you can get them, you know, by playing those, you know, simulation missions, and presumably, if you wanted to kind of get a bit of a jump on that progression curve that might make the game a bit easier to manage, you could spend some time there. And, you know, from what I've played, they are kind of, you know, fun in themselves as well. Oh yeah,
I've beaten most of them. So they have 3 objectives, and the first objective is just the baseline for clearing. Then they have 2 bonus objectives, and you get a reward for each of the 3 you complete, and there's a 4th reward for completing them all in one run.
Funnily enough, there's a very similar structure to some kind of mission type things, trial type things in the new Mario Tennis. It's like I did mention it like when I spoke about it. Like at first you've got these like trial towers where you've got to do a bunch of them, in succession. And it's like a sequence of 10, but eventually you just unlock this big list of like 100 of them. And they just, again, we've talked about it with stuff like Kirby, Smash Brothers single player, where it's like, let's just use the variables in the game to create little challenges. But each of those always has an additional objective, right? So it might be like, okay, you've got to win against this opponent. The opponent has like the mud racket. So it's just like, don't get muddy while beating them. That would be another objective. It's really similar in Pragmata. I didn't necessarily expect to have such a direct parallel in such a different game.
I've cleared most of them at the base level. There's some that unlock super late, so I didn't muck around with them. I've got about half of them with all of them in one run, and then everything else is in some kind of degree of I've beaten the main challenge, and maybe I've beaten all of the challenges independently, but haven't lumped them all together into a single run, or maybe I've got one challenge that's fucking driving me crazy. It'll be like completed in a really short time window, and I just can't figure out the order of operations to complete it that fast. But I feel like the mobility ones helped me out in some areas where the game does want some degree of mobility usage, or where just being able to min-max my mobility helped me out in probably clearing something that would have been harder to clear without it. Maybe some in-game platforming I was able to cheese a little bit because I had mastered some of the aerial maneuvering. But also some of the combat stuff in there did help me refine my tactics around, how to manage the 4 or 5 things you have going on at one time. But, there's some end game stuff you get in that kind of space that is more complicated, but also way more fun than any of the ones that are in the training simulator to start with. But yeah, like I've done everything. And I stopped playing it a couple days ago after I finished the last thing of everything. I really, really enjoyed it. I think I'm at about 16 hours. It's not the same. I don't want to compare these two games and make people think they're the same. But it very much gave me the same feelings I was having when I played the Titanfall 2 single player. It is a fairly narrow piece of single player content, like not thin, but it's not like a big open world thing. It has it's on a rail. You are racing through it. You get to encounter challenges that are both platforming and fighting, and sometimes they're both at the same time. There is some degree of exploration, but it's in this confined linear space. There is some motion stuff that's very similar to Titanfall 2 motion, but Titanfall 2 is way more kinetic, just because Hugh's in a big, bulky space suit. He does not do anything fast. Even his boosts are kind of just like, his body gets racketed to one side or the other. There's nothing elegant about boosting as Hugh.
Well, there is a sort of in-game reference to Ghouls and Goats at one point, and I feel like that's not just, Capcom referencing their IP. It feels like there's a little bit of a reference to the fact that, this is a kind of obviously vastly more maneuverable character than Arthur is generally in those games. Although, the double jump in Super Ghouls and Ghosts, I guess, is a little bit like these, sort of boosts that you get. But yeah, it's a character in a big suit that kind of lumbers around. Like, I assume that was the sort of spiritual connection for why they went for that particular IP to have as a little visual kind of gag in the background.
Yeah, and you could draw Diana's in a little bit there too, because she does kind of look like the princess in that game, as much as you could tell in a 16-bit sprite. It is a very well put together game on a lot of different fronts. Like, the world building is really good. The stage design it feels really nice. I'd say the pacing is probably one of the things it does best. Because they know that the combat is, I don't want to say exhausting, but if it was a constant diet of it would be exhausting. And it knows that. And so you don't get a constant diet of combat. You get drip fed to you. It has a good variety of enemies, but not a ton of enemies, if that makes sense. That there's probably, I don't know, I think there's a list of them. I think there's like 20.
And you get, like you said, you get variants at a certain point, right? As and again, this is something, kind of used to see in Resident Evil games, where it's like, okay, you get a certain kind of enemy, and now, like, there's something, you get a variant of it, right? Where it's kind of more deadly. So you're better off killing it like in a slightly different way or something. Like there's lots of Resident Evil kind of in this game. It's just with the storytelling, the fact that it's so much of it is about files and, kind of emails in this case, about like what's been going on in this place and all that. You could certainly liken that to all the letters and faxes and things that you might have read in the Spencer Mansion or the police station in the second one or whatever. So, it's got a lot of that in there. But like I said, but I would say, having played Requiem and this pretty close together, it just seems like Pragmata was a little bit less at pains to like be providing an experience of a certain length, if you know what I mean. Like with Resident Evil Requiem, because you've got some different play styles and whatnot, there's times where it feels like maybe, they're kind of like, okay, the game needs to be this long or feel of a certain scale, to be something that is going to satisfy critics and ultimately, players. So they're kind of, it may be a little unkind to say outright padding, but, it's got a little bit of that fit. Whereas with Pragmata, it just felt a little bit more kind of self-confidence. Like, it's not a huge game, and that's fine. Just to kind of have it feel of its own scale that's appropriate for, the kind of gameplay ideas it has and the scenario that it's got.
It paces everything really well. And I mentioned like how it paces out its combat, but also it paces out its story really well. And it paces out the changes in level architecture and environment. And like you never have enough time in a place or in a section of the base to get sick of that area. Because the next area you encounter will be radically different in some way or another. You would not expect there to be a significant section of a moon base that has plants in it, but there is. Like that is a section of the base, and it's a reprieve from the area that was in before it, which is very not biological. And so they do a nice job of varying that up, of varying up the story elements, of giving you the plot to advance at a good clip, but not breakneck. And it all fits in its runtime really nicely. Like I feel like they knew how long this game was going to take to clear roughly, and they did a good job of saying like every hour or so you're going to get a beat, or you're going to get something, and they managed the hiding of materials and things you have to come back for later really well. I don't think anything in this game is incredibly hard to find. There are definitely some items that are harder to find than others, but this isn't like it's going to take you 100 hours to find everything kind of game. I have found it all, and that is part of the post-game experience, and it didn't take me that long at all to finish cleaning up. And also, you feel like you're paced well. Like, as Hugh gets stronger at a very predictable cadence that you have a lot of fidelity over. But you can feel it. Like when you get an extra boost, it feels liberating. When you upgrade that gun a couple times, your base handgun, it feels more powerful. Just getting an extra bullet in the shotgun or shell. That feels like turning that thing from a 5-shot gun into a 6 or maybe even a 7. It feels very different. It does a nice job of giving you of that power creep feeling like it's running at a nice rate. It doesn't, you never get a moment where Hugh suddenly feels massively more powerful than he did before. But you might get smaller jumps where you unlock a new skill, and it's like, oh, that has a lot of effect on how I play the game. Not necessarily that Hugh's a lot stronger, but maybe Hugh is now, there's new tactics that will work better for you. It's real. Like this, I am in an interesting situation right now where like last year I was struggling to come up with what my top 5 was going to be. I might have just played 1 and 2 in back-to-back months. Cause like Pokopia is really fucking good. And I finally got the last fucking Tatsugiri the other day. And I've done everything in that game. This game is also really, really good. And I have done everything in it. And I do not regret it for 1 second. If you're not a big fan of third-person shooters, which I don't know that we ever mentioned, this is a third-person shooter. I still think it's worth playing. There is a mode that's basically like, I want to see the story. And I watched some video of what that mode looks like. And basically the enemies stand there and let you shoot them. So it would be very easy. I think the story and the exploration and the world that they've built and the characters that they've put in it, particularly our 2 protagonists, are worth it for experiencing on their own. But I also think the gameplay feels really, really good, to the point where I am considering taking my save, and the game has New Game Plus, and going like, where they describe it as the most of the upgrades come with, which I'm curious if that just means there are some you get as part of the story. My guess is those are the ones you won't have, because you would be able to go to places the game doesn't want you to go yet if you had them. And you could probably sequence break the plot. So I can imagine those are the things that are kind of locked away. I kind of want to see what there's an unlockable harder difficulty, what that is like. Cause when this game is being challenging, it can be pretty challenging. I want to see what this game is like when it's out to be a bastard. Because, I mean, just replacing the base enemies with their, like, more upgraded forms alone makes some of the encounters terrible. I have to imagine they do more than that, though, because that means at the end of the game, when they're mostly giving you the more advanced enemies, what would they do? But yeah, I really strongly recommend this thing. And it's not that expensive. It's I think it's $59 US.
Yeah, $49.99 on the eShop, and yeah, I think probably if you was getting the retail, card thing, you probably get it for less over here. So yeah, they weren't pricing it certainly as high as Requiem. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of similar for me in terms of those games relatively quickly back to back. Both you're probably going to be in contention maybe at the end of the year. We'll see. It depends how eventful the rest of the year is, I guess. But certainly, it could be in contention for those sorts of spots. But yeah, even if it's like I said, a little less costly, or, obviously hasn't got the big name IP behind it, or I've still enjoyed it, quite a similar amount. And like I said, much more for me because of, the less explicit horror content and, raison d'etre behind it. It was a really fun portable experience in this case, which is nice, even though, like I said, probably losing out a little bit on a certain amount of the atmosphere and stuff, but, still comes so across good and runs well enough that it's a really enjoyable kind of portable experience, even if it's, like I said, technically not absolutely perfect. It just kind of I don't know. So I think the aesthetic of this kind of probably is best with the kind of image quality that you get of the ones I've seen, because I've played obviously Requiem we've spoken about, but also played the Monster Hunter Stories 3 demo as well, which again is going to have a lot of the same sort of technical, kind of with the techniques, being applied in terms of relying on.
They're all using that same engine, right?
The same, usually like utilising the super sampling to, go from a lower internal resolution and blow it up to something, that's hopefully still going to hold up at least, the handheld and docked sort of resolutions. And I guess the biggest thing I've got is like, especially we've seen as much of it as I have at this point, having played, 2 games to completion and the demo of another, is like, there is a certain kind of murkiness that you recognise about the image. Again, it's kind of subtle, at least in my eyes, but it's there. But with this kind of very sort of stark, not very colourful environments of this moon base, as we said, that's not strictly true for every, because there is a variety to it. Right. But, there is a lot of that with the enemies and the places and all that. versus something like Monster Hunter Stories 3, where it's like cel-shaded anime, kind of aesthetic. I feel like the murkiness is more of a problem for something of that look than it is here, right? And because it's like, it's meant to be really popping, with the bright colours, right? The way that, Nintendo games on Switch 2 might, even if they're not cel-shaded or exactly the same kind of aesthetic, that kind of vibrancy you're looking for, and it's just not quite there, with what I played portably, at least, again, might be a bit different docked, and certainly, it did generally review quite well. Monster Hunter Stories 3 is something I would consider, maybe, at a certain point, but obviously that is a much longer game, from what I've read. It's, more in the, big RPG, 70 hours or something, that kind of thing. So, it was as much time, really, as anything else, why that was the Capcom game that of the string of them that they've launched this year that I haven't played. But yeah, there is a little feeling of it's just a bit more compromised by, the sort of visual tricks that they have to pull to get this stuff running on Switch 2 than something like this, where it just kind of, again, especially playing it so much of it portably, after a while, you just kind of stop noticing to a degree. You're just in it, and the gameplay and everything else is absorbing enough that you just get on with it, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, the HDR10 Plus for this game really makes, because there's a lot of stark reflective white surfaces. It's the whole we're gonna make the future sci-fi base where we're gonna make everything very clean and shiny. That even in the midst of things falling the fuck apart, that's still true.
Well, it's like what? It's like project number 3, right?
Yeah, a little bit. We made joke about Piano 3 about finding out Diana is Veronica Schneider. She's not, unfortunately. That would have been very funny if they just slipped that in there, but no, she is not. That we know of. But it is very stark and very bright surfaces and stuff, and that really screams off the screen with the HDR kicking in. This is just a good fucking game. I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Capcom's on a tear. It's nice to see that they've had 3 really good games already this year. I think they've got 2 more on the horizon. This is great for them, and I really enjoyed it. I don't really like the horror elements of Resident Evil. This is a hard sci-fi story. And we talked about it. It's hitting a lot of the tropes, but fundamentally, you're dealing with the standard tropes of playing God, creating life. Can a machine be human? All that shit. It's all in there, and it does a pretty good job of is this going to win any awards for creativity? No. I think you could. I think if you were to give awards for dialogue, it could probably win some of those because it does a really nice job with that. But fundamentally, it just feels comfy for one of those. This is my genre of content, and I enjoy this. So yeah, if you're not big on the horror, but you like the sort of hard sci-fi, I think this would be a nice compromise instead of a Resident Evil game, which really leans in on your George Romero stuff, heavily indexed on your George Romero stuff. Yeah, this is a really good game. I think I'm done saying that for now. Check back in 10 months when we're doing Game of the Year in March, and I tell you how much of a good game this was when I played it a year ago. We did an hour. Holy shit. We talked about this game way longer than I thought we would. Why don't we take a break here and we'll come back and do, Guillaume will tell us about his trip to Japan. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sure.
Sounds reasonable. Sounds pragmatic.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
Wow.
Sounds pragmatic. The RFN story. we are back from our impromptu Pragmata spoiler cast. Although we didn't really spoiler anything. It did have the feel of like the first half of a spoiler cast where it's like, okay, second half, now we're just going to talk about all the shit. We're not going to do that second half. I'd love to do that second half, and I've had the opportunity to talk about the plot of this game with somebody, and it was neat. But no, that's not what we're doing here. Instead, we're going to do more new business. And Guillaume, who has just returned from a long trip to Japan, has many things I'm sure he would love to tell us about and that we are interested in hearing. So I will let you pick your order, Guillaume.
Interested, but not super energetic. So
that's fine.
It was an exciting trip, I gotta say. If you've ever had an interest in going to Japan, I say, go for it.
It's cheap. Like, well, relatively speaking, your money goes far in Japan. Let's put it that way.
No, that's true. But you can still find ways. Anyway, to overspend.
So what parts of the country
make a budget and stick to it is what financial advisors will tell you, and also me now.
You will fail to do as soon as you get there, because I did.
Yeah.
Where'd you head?
Yeah, so we're a little bit all over the place because we dealt with this company called Unseen Japan, which you may or may not have, like, especially if you're on social media, like they post articles a lot about life in Japan and about explaining like various things, but like it looks like originally they were going to be kind of a journalism website, and then they turned into also a service to
there's no money in journalism.
No, exactly. So to finance that website, they're just like, okay, well, they can make an itinerary for you, or they can be, like a private guide but except that something that I realized that after we started dealing with them is that they're Americans, and so their prices are aimed at Americans and not Canadians we're paying a surcharge and everything. Like their prices are not in yen, but in American dollars. So it ended up being, like we did not decide to go the private guide route, especially if we had to pay their incidentals. Like we don't.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, we got enough money for a vacation for 2, not 3. I'm sorry, but they did make us a pretty good itinerary. We told them like, well, we want to do some hiking, we want to do some, like, yes, we want to go to the big cities, but we also want to go outside of them to see a little bit what's around. And so, like we, dropped off in Tokyo, spent several days there, and then Aizu Wakamatsu, which is more of a, the how do you say that? Anyway, rural, yes. Thank you. Jeez, a good start. Went to Sendai because of Karen needed to be there for fan reasons. There was a concert there that she hoped that she would be able to get tickets for, but was not able to ultimately. But where there's a show, there's merch. So Sendai was actually super beautiful, and it turned out to be the city to be at that moment to see the sakura bloom. So so that was great. And I also kind of like just stumbled randomly on a pretty good festival where people were just like in this park, just getting ready to take pictures with the trees and like having picnics, and like there was like stands of street food and everything, and that was amazing. Like, okay, I've stumbled into that scene in all those animes. So that's like one thing checked off the bucket list.
And those are both in northern, or depending on what nomenclature you use, eastern Honshu. Japan refers to Honshu as east to west, even though we would refer to it as north to south.
Okay.
Yeah, like that happens in Japan though, because there's all these little festivals, and like if you go to enough towns over a long enough period of time, you will just eventually stumble into one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun, like especially in the small towns, because there's just like But there are a lot of times if you wander in as a foreigner to a small town, I actually got asked the question, "Why are you here?" And they didn't mean for it to sound like, "Why are you here?" Just more like they meant for it to come off as like, "Oh, why did you come here?" But the person didn't speak good English, and my immediate response was, "Well, the bus took me here." But it's just kind of it's a thing there. It's especially in the spring when it's nice out. You picked the right time of year to go to Japan.
I just want to note, like, Sendai is only small in comparison to something like Tokyo. It's not that small a city.
Sendai's a huge city.
Yeah. The places that were more rural, we usually stayed fewer days at, and I didn't stumble, unfortunately, upon any kind of secret festival that I didn't know about. But they were nice, nice hikes. I went to Yakushima, in the forest there, where that basically inspired the movie Princess Mononoke. So it was like, okay, cool. I've got a video. Go on my Blue Sky account, Guillaume NWR. No, is it Guillaume from RFN? Whatever. And
I did repost it on the Radio Free Nintendo one. So
right. Yeah, and so I showed a short video of me kind of, freaking out because there's, we're in the presence of a macaque, a monkey, just like very chill, thankfully. I didn't know, in the moment, you don't know, oh, are we in danger? But yeah, it was just crossing the path that we had just walked on, very chill, just, kind of a surprise.
They're probably just used to seeing humans.
Yeah, probably. And it turns out, so, a little secret, after that video, it was very cool to see it so close and in person and just crossing the path that we had just taken and, being able to get such a good video of them in the trees. But later, when we took the bus down the mountain, it was a little bit less special when we just saw them on the road, enjoying the warmth of the asphalt that had been, in the sun, just basking in it. And it's okay, yeah, actually this place is lousy with monkeys. It's not I guess it's not that of special. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, yeah, if you're following on a map, we didn't teleport from Sendai to Yakushima, we just went back, west and south, and we went through, Hiroshima. If you love the movie Grave of the Fireflies and you would like to, be really upset
yes,
for
my
a
favorite.
while, that kind of lingering, feeling of oh my God, there's so much tragedy. There's an excellent museum, four-piece in Hiroshima, and it was tough. It was kind of a gut punch. I couldn't, at some point I had to just walk through some of the exhibits because I was okay, I've already been, shut in the face with tragedy enough times. I gotta go take a break. But no, it was really good. And then there are other touristy places that you can go around, that you can we basically chose to go there the first day to get it out of the way, and then we did more quote unquote fun stuff. But it's definitely worth going there just to be reminded
to experience it essentially.
Huh?
To experience it essentially.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, and it makes more concrete something that you've read about but maybe haven't understandably thought about too hard, right? Anyway, so Hiroshima, and then eventually all the way to Yakushima. Flew back to Tokyo for again several days, and and of course, on the way, down and left on the map, we stopped several days in Kyoto, so I guess the the thing that's the most relevant for this podcast is that, yes, I did go to the Nintendo Museum. Talked about it before leaving, right? I talked about the process of you want to think about getting those tickets 4 months in advance, really. I will say that it was fun. Okay, I will say this, and I would recommend going if you're a Nintendo fan, because why wouldn't you? You're in Japan. You're in Kyoto, specifically. You should go to the Nintendo Museum. It's fun. You'll have a good time. You'll see some prototypes that you've seen maybe pictures of the, like the original Wii Remote, like the one that was a puck with a star on it. Or the prototype of the Wii gamepad, which was just like a screen with two Wii remotes stuck on each side. So you'll see those, and that's pretty cool. But I think that almost nothing I say about it would be as damning as this book here I got, Nintendo Museum Official Book, a very slight book, which is basically an advertisement for the museum that you bought it at. And it takes...
I love when museums do this. Here's the guidebook. It tells you to go to the museum you're already in.
It lists the things that are at the gift shop. And it's like, well, this is of no use to me at this point. I already went to the gift shop.
I love it.
But like several pages have nothing on it, basically. There are some... Oh, the picture of the Nintendo Museum back in '69 when it was a plant, and like the museum in 2024. There's like a little blurb here, and then like that's the top half of a double pager. But like, and then there's just like Anafuda cards, some playing cards, some like just like tiny pictures of like, I guess that's a roulette table. There's the Ultra Arm. Like, I can identify those things because I know what they are, but like, it's just like, there's no context, it doesn't even say what these little pictures are. It's just
pictures? There's no guide? There's no text?
Yeah, no. So that's like just a few...
That's fucking baller
a few pages
shit.
into it. The next page is even worse. Again, like, the 2 pages are just like a collection of photos of people enjoying the museum, and you can barely see most of what's happening. Of course, you see a picture of like 2 little girls holding the giant Wii remote, and looking amazed. But you also see a picture of like 2 women taking a picture with their phone of Pikachu on a manhole cover. So yeah, and like the only text on here is reminisce, craft, explore, play.
I fucking love this.
Discover also. Okay.
I love this so much. I love the scamness of this. I love just the absolute, like, we need to make a book to sell in the store. What if we just take some photos we already have and done?
Yeah.
But the thing is, the trick here is that there are several parts to the museum. There's like the outside part where it's basically like photo shoot central, where you can just go into one of those pipes and get your picture taken. It looks like you're in the Mushroom Kingdom. And that's where the cafe is also, where you can get an overpriced burger. I did not get the overpriced burger. There's the top floor, like there are 2 floors. So the top floor is the first one that you explore, and it's basically the museum part of it. Like you see different artifacts. And then when you go downstairs, that's where you can play those interactive games with the 10 coins that you get with your ticket. Yeah. But the top floor, if you are aware, is the floor where is the interesting history stuff, but it's also the floor where you can't take pictures. You can take pictures of the games, but you can't take pictures downstairs. But you can't take pictures of the museum part of the museum. So I guess these weak-ass photos on this guide, on this museum official book is like,
I fucking love it.
Here's how you can actually remember what you just saw. Seeing these tiny, tiny pictures of parts of the exhibitions is maybe going to jog your memory, and you're going to remember that, oh yeah, this is the Wii Fit wall. I don't remember exactly what point that we're making here. Oh yeah, it was like a timeline of the different fitness equipment over the years that Nintendo tried to sell with their video games. Anyway,
I love the scamness of
it.
Like
here, I'm looking at a map of the museum, basically. But okay, so here the first real text here, and that's like the damning text. It's describing the second floor, basically the first one you visit, the museum part of it. The exhibits showcased on the second floor of the Exhibition Building 1 are shared with little explanation. As you observe the items on display, we encourage you to form your own unique thoughts and create connections, and to share them with others. You don't need any special knowledge or familiarity with video games to make the most of your visit. Yeah, from the top of the escalator, you'll see display shelves, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, it's an understatement, are shared with little explanation. There's never any context. So I had that context because maybe long-time listeners remember that I talked about, these books from this French guy, Florent Gorge, the history of Nintendo. He describes volume 1 of his history of Nintendo is from Anafuda to Game & Watch, basically. And so it doesn't even cover the NES, and then you've got the other volumes to deal with the actual the video game period. But that is a very historian account of Nintendo and what they made and where they come from and all of that stuff. The Nintendo Museum could not be less interested in telling Nintendo's history, and so you never get any context. You never get any attribution, certainly, to maybe except to Miyamoto for creating Mario. But you don't even get to learn about the CEOs, which I guess the average Joe maybe wouldn't care about. But you certainly when you see the Game Boy, you don't see the name Gunpei Yokoi. Everything is just in the Nintendo Music app, this piece of music composed by Nintendo. So all these video games you see on the wall, guess who made them? Nintendo. So that part was kind of, I don't know. I'm very ambivalent about it because I would like to see attribution. Also, I understand, and as I watch people around me, people who went there were mostly just going to their favorite game from when they were a kid, usually Pokemon, and pointing at it, telling their kids hey, Dad played this when he was young, when he was your age, hey, this is the game that I had. I overheard some people say hey, remember Nintendo Labo? Here it is. It's well, yeah, anyway.
Remember Labo?
Yeah, I
Bro,
know,
that
right?
wasn't that long ago. What are you talking about? Yeah, I remember Labo.
But again, I understand that we are kind of the freaks.
Yeah, as Seren pointed out when she was talking last week, that we are the 99.999% level engagement on her scale. It's we're all the way on the other side. I get it.
yeah. It's it sounds like we aren't even the target audience for this museum, really.
No,
Right.
I think we are to a degree. I think it's just a question of this museum exists. When they talked about it's so we have a place to take new hires so they can learn the history. Nah, this place exists so people would stop hanging out outside Nintendo's headquarters and taking pictures.
Mm-hmm. I do have a picture of my hand next to the, holding my 3DS towards the Nintendo offices, hoping, being I don't have the range. I'm not street passing.
They're a major international company that had nothing in their home city at all that was publicly available, and that was embarrassing. And so that's why this got created.
Yeah.
Now they do have something in Osaka if you want to buy a ticket to Universal Studios Japan. But until 2021, 2022, even that wasn't true. So
right.
This is them being a major international company and realizing that they owned property that they could use for the purposes of not having this embarrassment of fact that there's nothing people can engage with.
Right. Yeah, so I did enjoy it, and I did, like, of course, just like everyone else, I lingered around, like, the places that showed the Game Boy, basically, like, my childhood, and surprisingly, it was kind of cool, like, and it did show, because I guess Saga 2, Final Fantasy Legend 2 and Final Fantasy Legend were big deals on the Game Boy early on. Like, they had a prominent place on the displays, so that was kind of cool. So it was neat to see some of this stuff in person, but I only thumbed through the official Nintendo guide earlier today, and it made me angry because I was like, you fuckers, like, you actually don't want to tell us anything of like new or interesting.
Was it sealed?
Did they at least have the Game Boy that had been, blown up by a bomb in Iraq?
No,
I think
that's
York. Just an American. Yeah, that's at the New York store.
Yeah, but I mean, that to me is actually better than probably anything there at that museum.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, like, the prototypes are pretty cool. I would say that beats a bombed Game Boy. But yeah, was it sealed, this guy? No, basically it was not sold at the gift shop. It was sold in the area where it's a little bit cramped and a little bit dark, and you can see some art of, that led to the games, or, like some concept art, some whatever. Like, again, there's not a whole lot of context given to anything that they show anywhere. But, like, this was the art section, so you could see some hand-drawn drawings. There was, like, that's where they were selling this guide, and they didn't really let you touch it or thumb through it first. Like, it was just like, well, you want this? And I actually thought I was buying maybe like an art book or something. I was not. I was I was buying the pamphlet for the museum. Anyway, like, it's a weird item also, like this booklet where it's got a timeline of Super Mario history. It shows like all the, some sort of timeline of all the Mario releases, and it lists, all the handheld games. It lists even like the remakes, or the, Super Mario Run is on here. The re-release of Super Mario Galaxy is on here, for Switch is on here. But then it goes through like all the games released in the series, gives them a little blurb. Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World, Super Mario USA 64. Missing are the Super Mario Land 1 and 2, which they did put on the timeline, but they're just not acknowledging as part of the series. Like, New Super Mario Brothers is on there, I guess because Shigeru Miyamoto worked more directly on it? I don't know. But, like, anyway, this is another thing that just kind of pissed me off about this booklet. It's like, this is so incomplete. And like, yeah, okay, like the main Mario team didn't make the Super Mario Land games. Why don't you just say that? Like, it's not a reason to omit it, but anyway, let's move on because it's pissing me off. I liked the Nintendo Museum, by the way. I did, Karen
in the
and I
past tense, he liked it.
Yeah. So yeah, the games part was actually pretty fun, and unfortunately I wasted some of my coins on just playing, old games for like 3 minutes, because there are stations where you can just choose to play like Kirby's Dream Land 3 or something. Anyway, so that was not my greatest moment, because like I have those at home. But I did play with like the giant Wii controller.
Yeah, I mean, there is some novelty here.
Yeah, and so Karen and I just holding that thing, and just they take pictures of you while you're doing it, and so it goes straight to your Nintendo account, right? Because you had to have a Nintendo account to purchase the tickets in the first place. Your ticket is tied to your Nintendo account, and so you can have your Mii printed on your museum ticket, and also, like, they can send the photos to you. So they keep them for a month, so you can go and download them before they delete them. But yeah, so there's some pictures of us just looking silly holding a giant Wii remote. We played also Dr. Mario on a giant NES pad. I talked about some of this on the Famicast. I'll get back to that later. But yeah, like there's a little bit of overlap here. But yeah, like it was pretty fun. Like it was fun to play, and it was fun to see some other people struggling to like beat what's his name, King Bob-omb in Super Mario 64. Playing with a giant N64 controller that way. Because like, what are you supposed to do? Or trying to defeat Bowser even once, like even the early encounters with Bowser in Super Mario 64, like try doing that, like trying to coordinate with someone else. Like you spin the giant, thumb, digital stick, and like someone else is handling the B button and everything. Like that seems tough. So I enjoyed watching other people try to do that. Yeah, other than that, like there was like, it was very, very kind of, yeah, like the other stuff was a little bit silly, just kind of a vague connection, I guess, with Nintendo history. There was a section where basically like you can play you can shoot some stuff in the screen. You can use a Super Scope or a NES zapper or whatever. We didn't do that one, but like it's kind of a new modern game. Like there's no I don't think there was any Wild Gunman in there. Karen and I did like a thing, like it was basically using a Kinect, and it was like a love tester. And so like first, like you hold these things, you hold hands, it tells you, oh, well, you're mildly compatible. Now play these games. And so like there was actually kind of a Kinect game there where we had to dodge some fish in an aquarium or something by crouching or whatever. And then, okay, now you're, 90-something% compatible. So yeah, like very, very kind of silly stuff, but it was still kind of fun. We did the workshop where you can make your own Anafuda cards. But those are like, so that was fun. Like as soon as I told Karen, like, okay, we have to pay extra for this, but like you make your own thing. Like she's very arts and crafts oriented. She was like, yes, we should do this. And I wanted to do it. So it was, yeah, I didn't, neither of us needed much convincing to shell even more money to do that. It turned out to be a pretty basic thing. Like it's just like they hand you, you can choose between like 12 different patterns for your Anafuda cards. They give you some stencils, and then like they tell you which colors you're supposed to apply using these stencils. And yeah, it's very simple, but it was kind of fun. You then have to, like, it's made of paper, and then you have like kind of a cardboard backing that you have to tape the card to it. And essentially, like, you're doing the work that they used to be doing with Anafuda cards manually back in like 1886. But again, like, they don't make that explicit during your workshop or during the Nintendo Museum visit. I only know this because I've read about it. But yeah, like it's similar to the process of like what they would do to make these cards to then sell them. So it was interesting. It had like this interesting historical aspect to it, but you wouldn't know it just by doing that at a museum. It's very weird.
How much white powder do you think the giant N64 control stick produces?
I don't know. Probably you can't really, scrape it with enough force to really produce that white powder all that much. I don't know. I have to.
Inauthentic experience.
Yeah. I didn't personally touch the N64 controller, so I can't really tell you. Also, I can tell you that. So the dudes who operated it were Occidental. They didn't read Japanese. I think that when they onboard you in that game, they tell you how to press the Z button, and it's not underneath the giant controller. It's like a pedal that you press. And so the demo wants you to press the pedal before you start the game. But then, like, they just kept it pressed. So, like, a good, like, 10, 20 seconds of their demo was just spent them with Mario crawling around the first time that we're trying it.
Oh, no.
So not entirely an authentic experience. Like, with the pedal thing, they made some concessions. So I can assume that the analog stick is maybe more lubricated or something. Anyway, so I like the Nintendo Museum. I don't even know where to go from here. I guess I should move on to the Famicast, which I was on. So you can go and listen to that. I do not have my phone here, so I don't know which. It's basically the latest episode. If you're listening to this soon to this podcast release.
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second.
And so I talked about a lot of this stuff for 40 minutes. Probably like these accounts don't completely overlap, so I suggest that you 3:15. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, also I met Danny Bivens and James Charlton separately. But yeah, like they were very nice. Showed me, Danny we went to Ueno Park in Tokyo, so that was fun. But it was rainy and everything. It was already in Tokyo. It was already kind of like past Sakura season a little bit. Like it was not at its peak. So, but it was still, very nice. And with James, we went to the Nintendo store in Shibuya. And that turned out to be not the greatest place to actually kind of carry a conversation because there's so much to distract you while, you're just moving around. First of all, like you're not really moving around. Like there's just way too many people. Like it's super crowded. So
slammed.
You have to pay attention. Yeah, you have to pay attention to everyone around you and to like the weird DK hoodie. That's all. Anyway. Whatever. But anyway, like, so that was nice, to meet them. I didn't meet, Ty, but, I did record a podcast after, so, I saw him virtually. But I didn't, interact with Ty directly when I was like,
it's better the cat drugs remain a mystery.
Right. Yeah, probably. Anyway, so you should go check that out. The Famicast. Episode 315. Other than that, I gotta say, like, I felt a little bit like I wanted to see Japan, but I think that I probably also, and I knew this, but like, it's not the Japan that I've read about or heard about from just, like seeing people like Chris Kohler or whoever talk about it, on various social media and podcasts. Because the accounts that I've seen and read and heard were from 20 years ago. And even, Japan was different back then. And there's, like it keeps changing, right? And so I was hoping that somewhere I would be able to stumble upon like maybe like one arcade that has like the table flipping game, Like I wanted like one arcade somewhere that would have like some weird ass games that like really weird machines that I could check out and enjoy. But I think that those are gone. Like the most that you can find at this point, and because like I think it was just last year that Sega just decided to get rid of its arcade centers. But like basically at this point it's like complete Taito domination. There are Taito centers everywhere, and that's all there is. Like there might be like some slight differences between them. Like some of them might carry some older, old school games, but nothing really that out of the ordinary, that was disappointing. But I did at least... Usually you can find a Densha to Go cabinet, and those are pretty interesting. Densha to Go is the train simulator game from Namco. And so you get to, sit on the conductor's, little bench, and like you're supposed to, hit certain speeds at the right time and then stop the train right so that people can get in, and you can, do multiple stations and...
Don't slam on the brakes.
No, that would be bad. But unfortunately, a lot of it, well, it's all in Japanese. You do get some stuff on the screen that's, like the speed limit and everything like that. You can read that, but you might miss if you don't read the language. Like you might miss that you were supposed to do certain other things because you can, start the wipers and stuff like that. Of course, yeah, contextually, when it's raining, I guess, is when you would start the wipers. But there were other kind of cues that I missed when I tried to play it by myself. The first time that I tried to play it went really well, though, because Danny was right there next to me, so he could tell me. And he's played the Switch version of one of the Densha to Go games, so like he's had this experience with it. But anyway, like it's a cool kind of cabinet. Like there are multiple screens to pay attention to. It's all very immersive. And at some point, I found one of the Taito centers had like one of the bigger cabinets where it's actually kind of closed, right? Like, and you not only like it was like a better reproduction of a train, how do you say that? Driving cabin? I don't know. Anyway, like it was like a more elaborate set for you to play this train simulation game.
Oh,
but
okay.
They also had the some conductor uniforms hanging there, and you could just like pick it up and put it on.
I want to live the experience.
Well, yeah. So we got to do that, and so Karen and I have pictures of ourselves just, being train conductors playing Densha to Go, and it's pretty cool. But that was like basically like the most out there arcade cabinet that we saw. Like otherwise, like and we talked about this before the recording, James. But yeah, like mostly people were playing either rhythm games or those games that are based on having trading cards that you just scan on the machine. And that was kind of depressing. I was like, well, I can't really engage with that, and also I'm not really interested to. I felt like, yeah, like I wanted to see a Japan that doesn't exist anymore, but like they're already in the future, I feel like if I had tried to explain to someone, like, I want to play the table flipping game, they would have been like, what, that game that you play with your hands? That's for babies. Like they're at another stage, They play with cards now. Playing with your hands is dumb.
So I guess what is particularly Taito about these things? Like, is there something that, because you were saying that, some of these arcades were some of the old Sega arcades that were taken over by Taito. So like, is there anything particularly Taito about them?
Not
Higo
especially.
Took over some of the other ones, but yeah, it's like, just a brand.
Yeah,
it's just a brand. But like even I didn't even like Groove Coaster is one game that I know that is from Taito and that I saw once, but like it's not everywhere. It's not I guess people don't go there for the Taito titles. They go there for mostly like Namco is the main attraction in most of these. There's always going to be a Taiko no Tatsujin setup. So that's still popular, and that's the game that we ended up, Karen and I, just gravitating towards. Taiko no Tatsujin is the taiko drum rhythm game, so you get to beat on a big drum with sticks.
Good.
It's very good. It's very fun. Yeah. There's usually, like, if you watch anime especially, like there might be songs that you recognize, but also like video games, like there's to jump up superstars on some of the machines. or sometimes you can just beat the drums to Kirby music, so that's kind of funny. What's especially fun is when you go to a place and then like, oh wait, a master is playing. You recognize them by the fact that they bring their own sticks, and especially if they if they've got a tripod and they're filming themselves, you know that you're in for a show.
Yeah,
it's very impressive.
But still, you didn't particularly go to Japan to play, Taiko no Tatsujin, right?
No, I wanted to see more variety.
But yes.
Yeah. Quickly, in one of the early places that we saw, like I actually found a Luigi's Mansion arcade cabinet, and that was fun.
That's
like if you see one, you should play that but make sure that you've got like a good 30-35 minutes ahead of you, because you might not even be able to die before before then. Like it was extremely easy for an arcade game. And it was pretty long, and it just seemed to keep going. But it was fun. It's weird because like you've got basically it's a light gun game, right? But except that your gun is shaped like the Gust Poltergust.
The Poltergust.
And and for some reason, you do have a trigger, and you have like a button on the side, and you would think like, okay, one of them is the flashlight, and the other one is to suck up ghosts. But no, they both do the same thing. And basically, like if you just press it, that's like a flashlight. And if you hold it down, then you're actually sucking up the ghost. So that's how you play the game. It's not terribly difficult. Like we probably spent less than, like 1,000 yen in there. Like it was extremely easy, but it was cool. You could it's got all the stuff that makes Luigi's Mansion. You can hear Luigi just humming or whistling the tunes as you're playing, or as like during the track mode. It's very cute, and it's a good deal for the money, right? Like you get a lot of playtime for not a lot of spending.
And claw machines. There's a million claw machines. UFO catchers, as they call them.
Yeah, usually, yeah. And Karen is into those. And,
well then so many to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from. I didn't really, like... I really wanted a slime from Dragon Quest. But I tried to get one of those kind of like slimes made of glass, and I don't think that the machine is actually set so that it can the claw will ever grab it. So that kind of sucked. It's a heavy item, so I didn't get my glass slime, unfortunately. But Karen did get a few things. I don't know. I don't really have much to say about claw machines, to be honest. I guess so. I guess that kind of concludes it. Like, the other thing is that I did have my 3DS over there. I thought, like, well, I might Street Pass, but mostly, like, I find that it's a good handheld to carry on vacation because it's more compact and more sturdy than a Switch, right? Well, maybe not that sturdy because, again, this I guess that, like, I had it in my backpack and it was raining, and even though I was carrying an umbrella and everything, like, the backpack still got exposed to enough rain that the rain went through, the rain got to the 3DS, and no major damage, but the metallic paint on it just started flaking. And so from then on, like, I just left red paint flakes in just every hotel that we stayed at. It was very annoying, and now I need to go find, I don't know, like, I guess I'm going to go to a Games Workshop, a Warhammer store to ask them, like, can I do anything about this? I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
find a regular hobby shop, because Games Workshop paint's going to be $1,000 a file.
Oh, okay, right.
Go find somebody who's got like model car kits stacked to the ceiling.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I can find that, but I'll try. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They're out there.
So
like
that
I have
kind of
two
sucks.
in my town. You should be able to find some somewhere. But yeah.
All right.
Now, if you were in Japan, you could find them very easily because they're fucking everywhere.
Right, yeah, but I didn't, I would have had trouble, I think, trying to explain, yeah. But, yeah, and the street passing was had, but maybe not as much as I would have hoped, although, it's 2026. I understand. Like, it's, people are not carrying their 3DSs anymore. But at the Nintendo Museum, definitely. At the Nintendo Museum, I did get 10 street passes, but tragically, I had forgotten that you're supposed to kind of go into the system and flush your 10 current people so that more street passes can be had. Like, I remembered that they had upped the number of people that you can have at one time, but I forgot that the basically, like, it's by sets of 10. Like, once you get 10, you stop getting street passes. So maybe I could have gotten even more. But, I mean, yeah, 10 street passes in one go in 2026. I guess I shouldn't complain.
That's crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
One last item. Game prices. Good Lord. Okay, so I got angry about the Nintendo Museum. Let me get angry about game prices because I feel like we're all being had, and especially in Canada, like the prices are high. Like Tomodachi Life, $85. That's before the sales tax. So that's like crazy. You're looking at basically $100 for Tomodachi Life, and yeah, okay, fine. I guess I don't have a choice. I need Tomodachi Life. But over there, it was something like 6,000 something yen. So so in Canadian prices, that's, 50 something dollars. And like that much of a difference, I felt like, come on. Thankfully, Tomodachi Life is one of those games that is, if you have the Japanese copy, you can play it in English anyway. So that's what I did. I bought it over there and I saved, at least $30 by doing so.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know. The whole thing feels unfair. I understand that over there, like the wages are lower and they couldn't afford to pay Canadian prices for their games. But like, I'm not sure if Canadians have the means to pay Canadian prices.
No, it takes me back to like 1995 when I remember going somewhere and seeing Chrono Trigger and it was $120 Canadian.
Right. Yeah. Because that's the thing. Like, I understand that there's the conversion rate, and yeah, we're next to the US, and the US dollar is stronger, and so yes, like the difference in price reflects well the difference in the money's value, but it's not like I'm making 30% more Canadian dollars than an American is making US dollars, right? Like,
yeah. Yep.
It's yeah. So games are expensive, and I guess that makes me mad when I see that in Japan they're like, yeah, you know what? Like we're not going to inflict that on our population. You have fun though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I got a few games over there, but like importing is not really. I didn't go there with the intention of importing a lot of games, and so. Yeah, I wasn't really super prepared. I'm not really a collector anyway, so getting a Japanese game is of usually not a great value to me because I'm not going to be able to play them for the most part. So yeah, mostly like I was like looking through Switch games and then like checking online to see like, does this allow me to play in other languages, yes or no? And then, like if I thought, okay, this is a pretty good deal, then yeah, like I would buy it. And if not, then no. Like I was hoping, I saw that something like Etrian's Odyssey trilogy was really cheap over there, but then like that doesn't allow you to play in English, so I had to put it back. Anyway, I guess I don't have really interesting thoughts about importing games or shopping for games over there, but yeah. Wow, this is petering out, but it's also because I'm
it's
still
late.
a bit jet lagged, and
Yeah.
It's a little bit late, so we can move on.
If you have something else you want to talk about next week, feel free.
Sure.
John, why don't you take us home for the week?
Sure. So I picked up Saros for PS5 after, a few weeks ago I revisited Returnal just because I knew this was coming up and the games were similar, both by Housemarque. Both similar, obviously they're both roguelikes, where you're on an alien planet and you pretty much go as far as you can, get several power-ups, some permanent, some not permanent. And you eventually die and start over again with permanent power-ups. I would say the way I would kind of describe both games is, of course, they're very similar. Saros does introduce an eclipse mechanic where the sun becomes eclipsed and enemies get more difficult and have different attacks, etc. And I'm sure different enemies. I've put about an hour and a half into this game, so I haven't had a lot of time this week to actually really sit down with it. And I'm sure, sort of like a day-night mechanic, enemies come out and they're harder at night sort of thing, and I'm sure there's different enemies. A lot of the enemies are kind of, they're very, like a lot of like protruding bones and stuff like that, and kind of the whole, I would say if Returnal was kind of more of kind of had almost like a dark Starfield sort of feel to it theme-wise, this is more Dead Space kind of thing. A lot of muted kind of brown tones and stuff like that, and very foreboding, and also, very weird statues, grotesque kind of statues of enemy humanoid creatures kind of thing. So it's very, very good. Like I said, having really gotten too deep into it, but it really does have that sort of bullet hell kind of thing where, you'll come into a room, enemies will spawn, and you're both dodging projectiles. You have a dash where you can dash through projectiles, and of course you can jump, and you can raise a shield to run through projectiles, and they kind of play with that too with the environment where, there'll be kind of projectiles raining down just throughout the environment sort of thing, and so you have to, navigate that, throw up your shield. And of course there's all kinds of different weapons you can get. So it's good. I mean, looks great. I'm playing it on PS5 Pro, so it supposedly has some extra graphics flourishes there, but I'm sure on normal PS5 it looks great too. But I would say definitely if you like Returnal, you will absolutely like this, because this one's a little bit more lenient, I think, with being able to spawn and restart. That was one of the things they actually changed in Returnal from early feedback, where they made it, I think they actually added the ability to kind of save your run, or like kind of restart your run, because it was pretty punishing at first. And this one actually allows you, from what I've read, to kind of go back to sort of keep a save point, especially like for boss battles. Like you don't, I think you can kind of save your point, like a save point at a boss battle, so you can warp right there. Like it's just, I don't know the exact details just because I haven't really encountered it yet, but I know it is more lenient, so they wanted to make it a little bit more playable. So it's very good. It's everything I kind of thought it would be. So looking forward to digging more into that. And I've kind of been bouncing off a couple other games. One other interesting game that, I kind of stumbled across is on Android, Retro Bowl. I've been playing the heck out of that. It's basically a Tecmo Bowl clone, and it's incredible. It's amazing. And it does allow you to edit. I think somewhere you can get like an edited. Of course, it's all like fake players and everything. And I think you can actually edit the rosters. I haven't really dug too much into that, but it's really addictive, because what it is it's that same Tecmo Bowl kind of look, and you can play through complete seasons. And you have 10 players that you can choose, and they have like free agency, and you have to manage the way that your players, like your players, sort of morale, your team morale, and you have coordinators that you can hire and fire, and you can trade away players and all this kind of stuff. But the gameplay is really good because when you're throwing the ball, a lot of it is abbreviated. So especially like with the opposite team, a lot of that is just automated, right? Like it'll say like, oh, well, this quarterback threw a long pass, and your player couldn't cover it. And so, that part it's meant obviously for on the go kind of play. So a lot of that stuff is pretty quick, which is good. But what I like the most is the way you throw the ball. It's kind of like a bow and arrow feeling where you tap the screen to snap the ball, and then you really don't tap. You actually just, you hit the screen and then you kind of drag. Like, so say you're going to the left. You can either go one way all the time, or you can choose it like on the harder difficulties. You have to switch back and forth, which makes it very different because the way that you're playing is completely different, or the feel of it is very different, like going to the left side of the screen versus the right side of the screen. But what you do is when you snap the ball, you tap the screen and hold it down, and then you're kind of like a bow and arrow, like you see the arc of the pass. And so you see the routes of your players printed on the screen before you snap the ball, and then you snap it and you kind of hold, and then you see the arc of the ball. And so you can kind of time it. There's a lot of timing involved where, you can kind of drop it right in. It feels really, really good because you can see your receiver run the route, and you can just drop it into where he's going to be. And it just feels really, really good. But also very hard too. If you're like, for me, it's a lot easier because I'm right-handed, so I play with my right hand. A lot easier going to the left than it is going to the right, because I'm like, it's easier, like drawing my right hand back to the right is a lot easier than having it go over to the left and trying to, it's just really weird. Maybe I should actually try and do it with my left hand when I'm going to the right. I don't know. But anyways, that game is really good, and you can buy the upgraded version for like $1 or something. But I think where they make their money is, it's written by like one guy. But you can kind of do microtransactions where, if you want to say sign a really, really good free agent, it will be, 50 coins. And if you really want to get that player, you can either kind of grind to get those coins eventually, or you can actually buy coins. But it doesn't. But I mean, if you're playing a season, it doesn't really matter. You can just play through the season. It doesn't really affect you. The players don't really matter too much. Probably one thing I haven't done is I don't know if there's any PvP involved. I haven't even looked. Frankly, I've just been so addicted to the season mode, I haven't even bothered. But it doesn't appear to be any PvP in it. But I know on Reddit what they do is they have seasons where people sign up with their team, and you have to play on the hardest difficulty, and they do it that way. But that's a really, really cool game. So I highly recommend it if you're any sort of a Tecmo Bowl fan on Android or iOS. It's really, really good. Apparently, they also have it for PC, but I know on Reddit they don't allow you to play in the seasons on Reddit because apparently the PC version of it is very hackable. So you can actually there's ways to circumvent and add coins on the back end of the game, apparently. So nice. They're just like, we don't allow that. We don't allow the PC version to be played in the leagues at all. So I thought that was interesting. Other stuff
if you just want to play it yourself, hey, screw it, let's go.
Yeah. So highly recommend that. Other stuff I'm playing, still playing Pokopia. I've gotten completely sidetracked in doing buildings. I feel like I've made no progress. I've built a ton of stuff, and just all my Pokemons are housed. I'm solving the problem that they can't solve in the real world, with everybody being housed.
The housing crisis.
I'm solving it in Pokopia.
Wow.
Probably the last thing I opened was the kind of the sandbox area. But I still really have to tackle the like rocky ridges, I think it is, of still still doing most of my work in the opening area and the beach area. But still, I mean, playing it every day, that game is so good. I just enjoy the hell out of it. And also, so that has gotten me Pokemon crazy again. So I'm going back to Pokemon Sword, playing through that, with AI riding shotgun, which is fantastic for that game because it's just like, if you want to know what the strategy, what all the moves that your Pokemon should use for the next gym leader and what your party should be comprised of, like, you can use any AI, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, and that will absolutely map out the whole thing for you and kind of coach you through it. So that's been super fun, especially for someone like me who does not wish to be a Pokemon god. I really just want to get a really strong party together and beat the shit out of some gym leaders and finish the game and, complete my Pokedex. So, yeah, been playing that. Didn't expect that, but it's so funny. It is so typical of me because I looked at my player card in that game, and that game, I looked it up, and that game came out November 15th, 2019. So that means, for me, it would have been on the West Coast, November 14th at 9 p.m. PST. And my card was registered on November 14th, 2019, which means I put maybe about 5 hours into that game, probably pre-ordered it, and never touched it again.
Wow.
So, yeah, so
the John Lindemann special.
I was like, okay, man, this is happening now. So, but now I'm knee deep in it, right? I'm just plowing through it, man. I'm like, let's go, AI is like, hey man, yeah, here's what you should do. It's so great for strategy because it just sits there and it says, yeah, well, the next gym leader is this type. In this game, it's a rock type. So your party is really set up for that. But this Pokemon should probably have, I see that you have this TM. So this Pokemon should learn that move. But you can set up a strategy where this Pokemon does this move, you pull him out and then you bring this guy in and then he finishes them off, and so it's crazy. It's so good. Really, just for RPGs in general, I find that AI is incredible because, especially for older games, like I was doing the same thing with Baldur's Gate. I dipped into that for a minute too, the original, and that was great too because there's just so much stuff out there, and even with Saros, even with a new game like that, there's so much out there. All the guides that are written on IGN and stuff like that, like that's where it sources it from. So, and it just, and also older stuff too. But I mean, pretty much like any Reddit post, any kind of guide like that, like AI has crawled it and, sucked it into its brain, not consciousness, brain. And it's ready to go and it can really help you. So it's funny about that because, everybody laughed at that sort of, that Xbox AI assistant for gaming.
It deserved to be laughed at.
Absolutely. But I think actually why that wouldn't work is I have a feeling that they probably think that it will be able to help you using voice commands. And
oh God.
That is, or like using a voice, like telling you what to do with its voice. And I can't think of a worse way to get in-depth information about a game. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to pause the game in the middle of it? I mean, some of the responses you get from AI, they're very in-depth, especially for RPGs. So what are you going to do? Sit there and listen to something read off like 4 paragraphs of how your party should be set up in the middle of a game? Like, no way. Like, that's why it really works well. I just have my laptop in front of me. And so it's perfect. It just spits out, it's really good. So that's why I really don't think that assistants like that's kind of like, it's like voice control. It sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's just clunky and slow and doesn't work. So, yeah, I think Microsoft's definitely off the mark there as they typically are. But yeah, so that's my update. So plenty going on. Progress is being made. Oblivion is on the back burner, but Oblivion pretty much now, my character is just strong as hell, and I can just come back to it anytime I want and plow through quests. So it'll get done eventually.
Cool. So Oblivion's never getting done. Mark that off the list.
No way. I am committed. I'm committed.
How many hours have you put into it since the last time you told me you were committed to Oblivion?
I mean, Oblivion, I have like 100 hours into that game now. I have a lot.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, it's side quests, man.
Oh, I know.
It's
but
all side quests, right? It's like, that's the thing. But I've put like 100 hours into that game.
The success criteria that you can leverage against me has nothing to do with side quests.
This is true, but I'm looking at it like, man, I got to do all of this other stuff before finishing the game. So it's probably...
The game is my ally against you and the game.
It is the worst. It's the worst for like, I mean, I probably have about 15 quests, 20 quests in my backlog, and none of them by themselves really take that long to go through, but in aggregate, it just takes a while to slug through them. So, yeah, but, progress is being made on multiple fronts. That's what I can say. There you go. That's it.
All right, well...
Is that the title for the episode?
Progress is being made on multiple fronts. I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
There was one that got dropped earlier about the show itself. I can't remember. All right, well, on that, we also made some progress to going to fucking bed. You can send emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. I don't think I've said the email address in a little bit, so now I'm saying it. That is rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. Send us your email, because next week we're going to do email. I'm saying that, so it definitely could happen. But this week, the only thing we have left is some music. And Greg, I'm turning to you in my hour of need for some music.
Yes. Well, first of all, a quick little clear up with last week's one. The point about the deep cut component of the Splatoon 3 music. It is from the single player game, the single player campaign of Splatoon 3. And basically you fight the members of Deep Cut as bosses at times in that. So it's not a Deep Cut song that they perform. You're fighting them. And I believe that particular sort of variant or that particular track is from a fight with Big Man, which is more than a little bit reminiscent of the manta ray in Super Mario Sunshine, on the beach.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite a bit more compact and enjoyable than that sprawling cleanup
extremely low bar
operation with the electric manta ray or whatever in Sunshine, but still, yeah, obviously, just wanted to get that in there because, of course, the logic was that with Splatoon Raiders, what we've seen now, of course, is that you team up with Deep Cut. You're not fighting them, you're fighting with them in Raiders too, against what looks like quite a lot of stuff that might have got kind of adapted from Salmon Run, the kind of horde mode thing from Splatoon there, kind of into a single player context, although it does have co-op as well. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how all that stuff comes together, because I've enjoyed all the single player endeavours with Splatoon over the years, but I've always felt like there's been meat on the bone, more that they could do with it. And so when you have an actually more dedicated game for the first time, will they actually achieve that? That's going to be interesting. But as for this week's closing music, well, we just recently passed the anniversary of the entire Kirby series, because the original Kirby Dream Land debuted in Japan back in 1992 on the 27th of April. But a little closer to home, time-wise, on the 28th of April, 10 years ago, Kirby Planet Robobot launched, which I have to definitely one of my favourite Kirby games that I've played. Certainly I've not played them all, and there's quite a few that I've enjoyed, but Robobot, I think I've said many times over the years, struck a really great balance of, providing the whole Robobot concept is, I guess, a little bit like the ride armor from Mega Man X, but more versatile. It's got like copy abilities kind of grafted on onto it. It kind of simultaneously gives variety to Kirby gameplay and kind of feels empowering, but it also actually puts more limitations on Kirby than he usually has in terms of just being able to float indefinitely and all that, and lets them do some different things with the design as a result. It's just a great combination of factors there, and you've got the sort of, at that point, obviously they'd already done Triple Deluxe and they had the use of the stereoscopic 3D down, and the graphics and the sounds all really good. And of course, Kirby soundtrack's always reliable, and Robobot, no exception there. Very, very good. And more of a kind of electronic sound in keeping with the theme about, you know, all this automation and robots and stuff. So yeah, this particular track is kind of really one of those ones that you get in games where it's sort of like trying to build momentum for the end of the game. You know, it's one from one of the latter areas. So this is the sort of name of the Sinister Corporation, Holtman Works headquarters, which possibly hints at some resentment between the developers at HAL and their corporate overlords. I don't know. But certainly the music definitely gets you the idea that you're kind of coming to the end with you're working in some classic Kirby themes with an electronic sound.
Cool. All right. Well, on that, it is time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.